Good evening and welcome to this workshop of the Board of Education, Anne Arundel County. Tonight, the board will receive information from Anne Arundel County Public School staff related to the fiscal year 26 CIP and capital budget workshop. Tonight's workshop is open to the public, but no public questions or comments will be taken. The board will host a public hearing on fiscal year CIP and capital budget on Wednesday, September 18, 2024, beginning at 6:30 p.m. during the board meeting. This workshop is being broadcast live on AACPS TV, which can be found on channel 96 on Comcast and Astound, and channel 36 on Verizon. High definition broadcast can be seen on channel 996 on Comcast, channel 496 on Astound, and channel 2136 on Verizon. The workshop can also be viewed live on AACPS's YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us. So, Dr. Bedell.
Thank you, Mr. Silkworth. Today, you all will have an opportunity to receive an overview through this workshop on our FY 2026 capital budget and capital improvement program. For this presentation, we will have staff, Mr. Roof and Dr. Heiser, who will take us through this presentation. So I'll pass it over to you two.
Thank you. Good evening, President Silkworth, members of the board, and Dr. Bedell. Thank you for joining this Board of Education workshop on the superintendent's recommended FY 2026 capital budget and capital improvement plan. For the record, I'm Dr. Bill Heiser, Chief Operating Officer, and I'm joined by my colleague,
Kyle Roof, Director of Facilities.
For your reference and the public's reference, we're providing definitions for the acronyms and terms being used in this presentation. I'll take just a moment to pause so that everybody can read them. The agenda for this workshop will touch on 5 important components: the strategic plan, specifically Priority 5, the APA performance standards and budget goals, the CIP process, CIP issues and variables, an overview of the FY26 CIP request, and the facilities division initiatives. Our new strategic plan, Belong, Grow, Succeed, has 5 priorities. The 5th priority, Building and Sustaining Our Future, clearly lays out the goal to ensure the safety, security, and upkeep of all district facilities and the efficient and equitable management and allocation of district resources. The quality and upkeep of our facilities has a direct impact on school climate in terms of effectiveness, safety, student behavior, and ultimately student achievement. The largest impact areas are in the areas of air conditioning, lighting, acoustics, natural light, and in the cleanliness and cosmetic conditions of the facility. We pay very close attention to data in AACPS, as you see in an illustration of the school performance ESSA houses. The variables mentioned earlier have a direct impact on our students' success. Now, it's important to remember that we are the 4th largest school system in the state. We have 130 school facility sites that have an average modified age of 30 years old. Our facilities have 14.7 million square feet of building surface across over 3,000 acres of land. The current replacement value is $8.2 billion, and there are over 84,000 students, and we have the #1 ranking in the state of Maryland with the Facility Condition Index of 0.47, which I'll touch on just a bit later. This graph illustrates the statewide average age of all facilities in 2024, which was 31 years old. You will see that Anne Arundel County is on par with that average at 30 years. The school systems to the left of Anne Arundel County on the bar graph have an older average age facility, and the systems to the right have a younger facilities. For each LEA, there's a bar graph showing from left to right their average age for their facilities from 2015 to 2024. Under the Association of Physical Plant Administrators, also known as APA, there are 5 levels by which we measure the areas of maintenance, custodial, and grounds. Level 1 is the highest ranking, down to level 5, which is the lowest ranking. AACPS is APA goal is in orange, which illustrates our goal to be at level 2 in the areas of maintenance, custodial, and grounds. The FCI, or Facility Condition Index, is a percentage that compares the cost to repair a facility to the cost to replace it. The lower the FCI, the better. Now, there is an important connection between the APA performance standards and our budgetary goals. In FY 2024, our budget was $165 million in capital renewal funds, plus $78 million in operating funds, and $13.7 million in special funds, bringing the total to $257.5 million. In 2025, the total reduced to $243.3 million. In order for AACPS to meet the APA Level 2, our annual funding should be between $288 million and $329 million, which is an annual funding between 3.5% and 4%. The annual CIP process begins in July and extends all the way until the final County Council capital budget approval and Board of Education approval in June of 2025. It's a long year. We're holding today's board workshop, which will be followed by a public hearing. As you see from the slide, there are a series of steps with the IAC, and we'll present the capital budget request to the Board of Education in February. The state CIP request process has a sequence which we follow. The feasibility study, which has no state funding and needs local validation of the project. Next is local planning, which has no state funding but requires state validation of the project, followed by construction funding, which falls into two categories. Major projects, which is guided by a formula calculation for eligible items only and averages 25% of the total construction project costs. Then there are systemic projects, which is up 50% of reasonable construction cost and averages 45% of total construction project costs. There are some important variables to keep in mind. First, the funding levels and funding stream. Next, increasing regulatory and environmental compliance costs. Also, keep in mind, we take a look at the availability of qualified people in the trades and the supply chain disruptions. There are also increases in labor and material prices and the increases in state construction costs, which I'll touch on in just a moment. CIP funding comes from just a few sources. This pie graph shows the CIP funding sources from FY21 through 25. 45% of the CIP funding is county funded. The alternative funding sources contributed 33% of the total funding and included $209 million from Built to Learn, $119 million from federal grants, and the Aging Schools Fund, all of which are ending. Importantly, 4% of the CIP funding came from reverted funds, showing that AACPS is a good steward of our resources. In fact, the average reverted funding was $7.5 million. The FY 2026 IAC target allocation across all LEAs is changing. For Anne Arundel County, we will experience the second largest decrease in allocation to the tune of almost $2.8 million, only second to Montgomery County. This is something to pay close attention to. To provide some context, one of the major challenges of the funding side is the cumulative increase in construction costs compared to the state IAC funding. Since FY 2015, construction costs have escalated almost 80%, and the state IAC funding has fluctuated with a projected 40% decrease in 2026 of $23 million. It would require an additional $74 million to match the rising construction costs.
In this year's budget, we are requesting $204.7 million. This is an increase of $20 million from the FY25 approved budget and is in alignment with the 6-year plan approved by the County Council. This money will be used to support $138 million in major capital projects and $66 million in reoccurring capital renewal projects. As a reminder, the blue bar on the top of the slide indicates our funding requests broken down into state and county funding buckets. The school bus facility lot the purpose of the school bus facility lot is to combine the Waterford and Millersville offices and build one maintenance, parking, and training facility at a single location. The $9.2 million request in FY26 would provide funding for the construction of this project. We are currently working with our county partners to procure property for this project. Our $5 million in all-day and pre-K is for renovation project at Carver. Ed specs will be presented at the September 18th Board of Education meeting for a 120-seat early education center that would tentatively open for school year 26-27. This building would follow a similar model as other regional early education centers throughout the county, and the center would provide services for the western clusters of Arundel, Crofton, and Severn Run. Our $4 million request for school additions will help us build out future capacity. We are continuing to see growth in the western area of the county. Our request for local funds would be used to support a future addition. The project location would be dependent on the results of redistricting and current enrollment patterns and projections. Cat North broke ground in the summer of 2024. The project will be completed for the 27-28 school year, and the center is being constructed at the current Old Mill complex, adjacent to the footprint of the vacated Old Mill Middle School South. Our request is for $13 million in local funding sources. State funding was secured in the prior 2 fiscal years. Old Mill High School will utilize the same prototype design as Severn Run High School and Crofton High School. The school will be located on the Old Mill complex near the baseball and softball fields. Our request is for $77 million split between local and state funds. The project is scheduled to bid in early calendar year 2025. Pending funding approval, this school would be occupied for the 28-29 school year. Old Mill Middle School North will utilize the same prototype design as Old Mill Middle School South. The school will be located on the current Cat North site on Stevenson Road. Our request is for $29.6 million in local funds. Construction documents are anticipated to be completed this winter. Pending funding approval, the school would be occupied for the 28-29 school year. Our request for recurring programs is approximately $66.7 million. Many of these projects originate from the comprehensive maintenance plan that was approved by the board on September 6th. Most of the categories are locally funded except for building systemic renovations and the aging school program, which the state contributes funding for. These programs represent the bulk of our capital renewal projects. Program notes include building systemic renovations at $32.9 million. This includes building envelope improvements at Glen Burnie High School, windows and roof replacements at Lyndale and Arundel High School, electrical improvements at Annapolis High School and Broadneck High School, and HVAC improvements at Severn Elementary and Jones Elementary. It should be noted that HVAC and roofs represent the single largest need categories in the FY25 CMP. Over the next 10 years, we estimate that approximately $276 million will need to be allocated to upgrade HVAC systems and roofs on existing buildings. Maintenance backlog is an $8 million request, and this includes smaller capital renewal projects such as generators, smaller MEP projects, replacement of doors, windows, and finishes within the building. Roof replacement is a $6 million request and is prioritized on roof condition and is a locally funded program. Relocatable classrooms, $1.2 million is being requested for constructing relocatable classrooms at schools that are overutilized. The line item is locally funded through impact fees. Asbestos removal, our $600,000 request includes removal of asbestos floor tiles, insulation, soffit panels, and doors. Approximately 50% of our schools still contain some asbestos-containing building material, and we are removing them on an annual basis. Barrier-free, the $350,000 request is for ADA modifications based on recommendations from our ADA committee. Projects can range from bathroom modifications, curb cuts, grab bars, playgrounds, and locker modifications. This project request for this program will increase in FY28 as the result of the aging school program being eliminated. School bus replacement, the $3 million request is for cyclical renewal of Board of Education school buses and expansion of the alternate vehicle program. It also allows us to expand electrical school bus infrastructure. Health room modifications, $350,000 is being requested for health room modifications that are prioritized by the County Health Department. School furniture, $600,000 includes replacement for worn and broken school furniture or to supplement classroom furniture for increased student enrollment. Upgrade various schools is an $800,000 request, and it's for the modification based on program needs and ages of the facility. Projects include modifications to media center walls and office modifications. Vehicle replacement, our request is for $750,000 to replace aging fleet vehicles. This includes dump trucks, box trucks, backhoes, and vans used in the facilities division. Aging school program, our request is for $575,000. This is a state program that is 100% funded for construction costs only. Examples of these projects in this category include elevator upgrades, folding door replacements, and brick repointing. As mentioned earlier, this program is set to expire in June 2026. The playground improvements, the priority list is for $500,000 request, and it is used to replace aging equipment, and it's based on the number of structures and the school need. Athletic stadium, our request is for $4 million. This money is used for replacement of bleachers, tracks, lighting upgrades, and turf renewals. And finally, driveways and parking lots is a $1.5 million request, and this will be used for expanding school parking lots, driveways, making safety improvements, and capital renewal of paved surfaces. The sustainability program will enable AACPS to have funds available for energy efficiency improvements. In addition, the money can be used to pursue grant opportunities to receive additional funding. As a result of this program being established last year, AACPS was able to forward fund and pursue multiple funding opportunities. This has led to AACPS receiving over $4 million in non-matching grants and direct payments. These grants will be presented to the board as a supplemental in October. AACPS is partnering with the U.S. Department of Energy's Better Building Challenge and has been very successful in reducing our energy consumption. In 2019, AACPS achieved our 20% reduction goal in energy use intensity from our 2013 baseline. This was 5 years earlier than anticipated. Following that achievement, AACPS set a new goal of 30% by 2026. As part of our commitment to the Better Buildings Challenge, we achieved that goal 3 years earlier than anticipated. We are now targeting a 50% reduction by 2033. Our action plan is made up of a host of regularly occurring energy efficiency measures in addition to capital improvement projects targeting replacing inefficient legacy equipment systems while building new high-performance buildings. We are again requesting the BOE project and program planning. This program is a recurring program that will help establish a funding source for long-range planning, district asset management, and forward funding projects-specific studies. Having a forward-funded source available for feasibility studies will make future AACPS projects less dependent on fiscal budget cycles and will help us avoid mid-year moves, which are very challenging for our construction division. In addition to the capital budget initiatives, the Facilities Division is actively working on long-range capital studies to plan out the FY27 through FY37 capital programs and Phase 2 redistricting. Both the long-range plan and redistricting will help AACPS to plan and position itself to address challenges associated with enrollment patterns, blueprint programs, forecasted land banking for new school sites, and establish forecasts for funding requirements. And with that, we will open it up for questions.
Okay, we're going to be going by roll call order this evening. So, Ms. Schauheim.
Thank you for a fantastic presentation. I do have a few questions. So I want to start on slide 14, the CIP issues and the funding and the graph showing a lower IAC involvement in terms of funding. Is that, like everything else, tied to our this county's affluence and yet our county's lack of wanting to tax to the cap? Is that what's contributing to that funding decrease?
So this shows that we're the second, obviously the second largest decrease. Montgomery County is the first. Well, if Mr. Roof has more to expand on, but certainly is connected to the piece you just mentioned in terms of the wealth of this county, which we've talked about in previous meetings. And it's a double-edged sword in that regard, right? It's, I don't know if you want to add on that.
Yeah, the overall contribution from the IEC is primarily driven by enrollment. The decrease this year has been explained to us that it has to deal with a new funding formula that they're putting in place that further puts emphasis on the wealth of each individual county. As you can see, Montgomery County was hit with a decrease. We were also hit with a decrease while Prince George's County was hit with an increase of almost $4 million over their 10-year. With that being said, our actual 10-year average historically has been around $39 million from the IAC. And right now they're targeting us closer to 26.
Oh, wow. Once again, our failure to see the forest for the trees in terms of the education of our students and wanting to fully fund that. So I have thoughts and feelings about that, but that's not for you all. Love to see, this is a comment, the bus facility lot, amazing. So there's not a piece of land identified for that yet.
We're working closely with our partners to finalize.
Oh, so there might be some irons in the fire, but it's not final. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, keep us posted. That's amazing. The all-day pre-K, K and pre-K at Carver Center, again, incredible. I know we currently use that space for a lot of PD at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So where would the PD shift to? Because I mean, I'm all about this plan. I just was curious.
Currently, those staff members are still at Carver for this year. They're moving, the plan is to move in January of 2025. We're working closely with our academic division and the chief academic officer to make sure that we're planning appropriately as we kind of think about the needs of our teachers and our administrators and what training will look like and what professional development will look like. And I think it's given them a unique opportunity to try and look at how can we deliver exactly what we need. Some of it will be in person, there's no doubt. And I would imagine there's some that will be virtual and online. There are some benefits to that as well. So I know they're working through that over the course of the rest of the year.
I think this is a fabulous idea to use this this facility in this way. Incredible. So full support. lastly, and then I'll, actually oh yes, I have one more comment and then another question. So the $8 million that we're asking for in terms of a maintenance backlog, I mean, I read the facilities maintenance plan too, and it's like 750 some odd $million. So why are we asking for a number so low when that doesn't meet our need?
We know that we are part of a larger piece of the county budget, and that we have to be good stewards of not only our budget, but also understand that there's a larger game at play and that we have to be part of that. The county sets out a 6-year plan for us. We try to match that as best we can. We have been told that this is going to be an extremely tight budget year.
We hear
Asking
that
for
every year.
beyond what we can theoretically get is only going to set us up for disappointment.
No, I know, but I think it would be, I mean, at some point when it's appropriate, I think it's worth saying again and again and again that paying for something now with today's money is cheaper than letting it fester into a larger problem and then paying more for it later. So there's that. With the roof replacements, I think you know where I'm headed.
Yes.
Are we going to do solar if we're going to replace the roof anyway? Are we going to put solar and then hit our sustainability goals even quicker? Right?
I think it's a combination of things. So we do have solar-ready schools.
Yes.
We talked about with the new schools. We are positioning ourselves to release an RFP shortly related to a PPA RFP, so that it would be a power purchase agreement on those new schools. The older buildings have less of a structural component. They weren't necessarily built to today's building standards. So I'd be hesitant to put a solar array on top of a building from 1965 or 1970.
Even with a new
Without-
roof on it?
Well, you would have to do structural modifications, which increases the cost.
Okay. I'm not going to let this go, y'all. But we've made a lot of progress in
Yes.
the last 6 years.
Thank
We
you.
made a lot of progress.
Absolutely.
I'm always going to push. As price per KWH continues to go up, we can have further conversations. Maybe parking someday, maybe that'll be a thing. I don't know. Just like in the West Coast. Thank you so much for a fantastic presentation.
Thank you.
Ms. Dent?
As always, great presentation. I understand half of it and not understand the other 50%. Probably actually don't understand the other 75%, but I'll be modest. So a couple of questions. The first one is, this gap is really concerning me. There is a glide path for the HVAC, which bothers me. I literally cannot stand walking in schools and seeing no HVAC. We're blessed, right? But there are schools that don't have HVAC at all. But I don't want to walk into a school at one point and find out that we don't have any HVAC. So $263 million is a lot of money to do a glide path over 10 years. So how are we positioning ourselves so that we are, doing that average cost of $26 to $27 million a year to cover our HVAC systems?
It's a combination of new and replacement buildings and also the systemic projects, which are state funded. So right now we're undergoing Lindale Middle School's whole school systemic renovation project. It includes HVAC and plumbing upgrades throughout the building. And then in addition, we're trying to get the roof and windows as part of a second project this year. We have successfully done that over the course of the last 5 years. So Annapolis Middle School, Bates Middle School have all benefited from this systemic program that we're doing, as well as North County High School. Those projects have benefited from multi-million-dollar HVAC and building upgrade projects associated with that. But it is going to require money, and that is something that we're hopefully going to plan out with this 10-year plan that we're undergoing right now, where we're looking at our whole portfolio. Where is the desperate need for this, so we can really pinpoint how to best utilize the limited resources that we do have.
Yes, I agree. All right, thank you. One more question, and then I'll pass it along. The other one, which I love, is you talked about the 120 seats that you're going to do for pre-K. So pre-K is my baby, and it's not going away. So how soon do we see that project starting? I know it said 2026 priority, we're in 2025, but
You will see it at the next board meeting as far as an ed spec being presented to you. So that'll be the programming portion of the design. After that, we'll hire a consultant, we'll do a feasibility study, and then we'll bring the 30% and the 60% drawings for you all to review.
okay, so the $5 million is just for the feasibility study and the pre-planning, or is that the total project?
After we get the feasibility
Right,
study
right, right.
done,
That's
we
where I'm
will
trying
get a
to-
better number as far as the overall cost of the project.
That's where I would want to go, right? Because people look at this and they see $5 million, well, think, what? No, that's not the case. So I really wanted you to elaborate just a little bit on what the $5 million
Yeah,
is
but
covering.
the $5 million does include design and construction as we see it now. Yeah.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Ms. Hamdawi.
Firstly, thank you both for an incredible presentation. I will echo Gloria when I say I maybe understood about 70% of it. Sorry, I didn't understand about 70% of it, but nonetheless, very, very educational. Firstly, a comment. I truly cannot overemphasize the importance of a school building to academic success. It is something that can sometimes be overlooked by certain individuals, but I can assure you, when you walk into a classroom or you walk into a school and there is natural light and there is AC in the middle of August or June, and you are going into a classroom that doesn't have broken chairs in the back, or you have a cafeteria that can fit your school population in it, it makes a difference. It really, truly does. And it is a shame to walk into certain high schools in this county and middle schools in particular and see a complete different standard of student experience, right? The first time, I think I moved here my freshman year, and so the way I experienced high schools was weird. I went to Crofton, I went to Sabrina Park, and the next high school I went to after that was Glen Burnie. And you can imagine the difference between going to school in Crofton and then seeing the northern part of the county. It is striking. Yes, thank you for that. It is striking. And so I just really like to state how important it is. Trust me, it makes a difference. But to the questions. On slide 13, I'm seeing that $330-ish million of funding sources are ending. Is that this year or in upcoming years?
That is over the course of the last 10 years.
Over the
we've
course
used
of the
those
last
funded.
10 years. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. And then, where are we? On slide 23, obviously priority number 3, building systems renovations, is fairly significant, $33 million. I know you briefly touched on some of the renovations that we'll be undergoing with that $33 million. Could you touch on the largest ones financially speaking?
Financially speaking, the largest project that we are undergoing right now is Lindale Middle School.
Mhm.
The ones that we are seeking in the upcoming years will be Glen Burnie, Lindale Middle School again for a roof and window replacement,
Mhm.
and then Arundel High School for windows.
Okay. Thank you very much. I believe that is it for now. I can assure you will be hearing a lot from me over the next few weeks, but again, thank you both.
Mr. Silkworth, I just wanted to just piggyback on something she said, our student board member. You drop a lot of nuggets. I'm telling you, some good stuff too. So we were at Severn Run the other day for the football game. And so was standing over on the fence once the game kicked off, and I had a teacher come up to me. And the teacher said, Dr. Bedell, and first of all, he said, thank you for what you guys are doing around the cell phones. Then he said, I don't know what it is, but something is happening with this new facility. I have ninth graders. There is a different focus than what I've seen in a long time. These kids are coming in the classroom. They're excited. They're excited about the amenities. The building principal said that these kids want to protect this facility. And so what it's done, just from a morale standpoint for the students, it just makes a huge difference in how these kids see themselves and how they see that our community cares enough that we are putting these kind of investments into these facilities. And so I just wanted to chime in because I wasn't going to say anything, but you triggered that conversation that I had with a couple of people on Friday at Severn Run. So it is making a difference.
Thank you, Dr. Bedell. Dr. Tobin.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing, Dr. Bedell, after experiencing that. And I've always believed that students, well, I know from being a parent and being an educator that children and students don't do what you say, they do what you do. They watch your actions. And one of the most important ways that students, I think, understand that they really are respected is by what we adults put in front of them. And I think so many students, in my experience, want to know that the adults around them are genuinely interested in them, care about them, and are willing to listen to what they have to say. And I think our buildings are a representation of that. And, you know, as Ms. Hamdawi indicated, the vast difference in schools was really indicated to me a year or two ago. We were walking back, we were at Severna Park High School, and we were walking back from I think the evening school graduation. And one of the young men who I believe had been a speaker looked at me. And of course, students in the evening high school graduation are from all over the county. And he looked at me and said, "Is this a high school?" And I said, "Yes." I said, "Why do you ask?" And he said, "Because I go to North County and this doesn't look anything like what I'm used to in a high school." And I think that's worth remembering. And I think it hit him that there were students in the same county who experienced that school every day and had a completely different experience than what he had. And so I just want to back up what Ms. Hamdawi and Dr. Bedell are saying. I don't think it bears too much repeating. With that, I have a couple of questions. I'm very glad to hear that the Annapolis High Electrical Systems is on the list for for some of the building systems renewal. Just to reiterate again on slide 23, the maintenance backlog. I remember once getting a projection of this. Is there any projection of how many years it would take to get through that at the rate we've been able to go? And if you don't have that with you, I understand. But I think that's an important metric to have because it sort of puts things in perspective. The expiration of the Aging Schools program. One of the things that I believe you mentioned is falls under that category are things like elevators. And that is such a critical thing, the elevator in a school, for so many reasons. And, we just know we've got old elevators. I've heard plenty of stories of it's, out for 3 days or whatever, because it's ancient and getting it fixed is a long process, which leaves, ADA compliance, just the need to move things that need to be moved, all of that kind of at a stopping point. With the expiration of this program, I mean, is this just now going to be things that go somehow back into another part of our budget when we have to address them?
Yeah, with the aging school program ending, we will be moving our focus back to the barrier-free program.
Okay.
So that's where we would start putting more of these elevator replacements.
Okay. and presumably other things that would cause similar. So we're just going to have to sort of refocus.
The benefit of the aging school program was 100% of the cost was covered by the state, whereas now the local is going to have to pick up all that money.
Right. So in other words, it's going, I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is it's going to be sort of another competing piece now of our local request, whereas it could be put in the state bucket completely for, okay. Just quickly, for those who were watching and heard about the 50% of or thereabouts of our schools still have asbestos in them, I'm assuming, just to be clear for the public, these are elements that are not free-floating asbestos, correct? This is
tile floors that need to be replaced, and we periodically go through and replace these on an annual basis. This has been going on for quite some time.
right. So on a day-to-day basis, students, faculty, staff are not being exposed to asbestos. Okay, just to be clear. Obviously, like Ms. Schalheim, I'm thrilled to hear about the sustainability work that we're doing and the goals that we're meeting. Is it possible at some point, if not now, to get some data on what that savings has looked like year to year, so we really see the impact on our budgets? Because I think that's also critical. And along with that, I know we're required to put a lot of money into setting up for electric school buses and so on. But again, I think it would be that's a lot of money up front, but I think it would be great to get some more information on what the projections are of what the return on that investment is really going to be, because it's a lot of money up front. But there's a math to it that I think needs to be clear. And I think for now, that's it. Thank you both for an excellent presentation. Much appreciated.
Thank you. We'll definitely provide that information.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Tobin. So I have a few comments, maybe a question or two, but to piggyback on what Dr. Tobin talked about was it 50% of our schools that still have issues with asbestos? Do we have a priority kind of list in order to determine which ones come next?
Yeah, we have a list that we've been working through, and each year we knock a few more off. And with the replacement of older schools with Quarterfield, Hillsmere, Rippling Woods, we definitely take a big chunk. Old Mill Complex will be another big chunk.
Right. And also talking about the aging schools, was it 575,000? Seems like it should be more to me.
It should.
And I understand what you just said about, particularly in light of the fact that the state's going to fund the whole thing, and it's going away. So, but in any event, just a couple comments. I'm excited also about the bus facilities lot, and also the pre-K Carver Center. Carver Center is probably as old as I am. I mean, Carver Center. I've been there many times, and but in any event, it's great to see that it's repurposed. Will be repurposed for pre-K. I had mentioned earlier I had some concerns about when it comes to safety and security upgrades and health and safety. And then the comment that we hear that it's a tight budget year. I would just suggest that in terms of safety and whatever, we need to be advocating for what we need. And if it means that those numbers would go up, I would hope that they would go up. In relation to what Ms. Hamdoui has talked about, yeah, I am concerned about morale at schools like Glen Burnie in North County High School, and also in terms of what a few of the other comments from some folks up here on the dais. I've always said, however, the brick and mortar doesn't make the school. It's the great people within. However, having said that, I mean, at some point in time, we really do have to be taking a look at Glen Burnie High School. Now, I know there's been a lot of money put into Glen Burnie High School, and it's in really good shape. However, again, if we're making comparisons between what the Glen Burnie Gopher student sees versus, and the North County student sees when they walk into the building versus the Severn Run, Crofton, Sparta Park, and so forth. So I have to thank you when I take a look at this budget. I represent, in my mind, I represent students across the county, but in District 2, there's a lot of money that has been spent in District 2 on when we've opened Severn Run High School, Old Mill Middle South, and we're working on Old Mill Middle North and the Votech Center, and probably soon to be Ruth Eason. So I thank you for all of that. I want to thank both of you and your staff for the great work that you do. So having said that, I don't have any other questions. I'm looking, if I see some lights, I can recognize some. Ms. Dent?
I just want to put it on the record that North County is still looking for money. We're not. We're still overcrowded. We're working on that, and I would like you to continue to keep us on the radar. Don't oversell it. We are great, but we still need additional funding for facilities. As a matter of fact, we'll talk about that offline about the facility, about remodeling and redesigning the parking spot. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Just for the record.
Thank you, Ms. Dent.
Okay, seeing no more lights, once again, thank you all. And thanks everybody for being with us this evening. The Board of Ed will meet this Wednesday. We have a 6:30, I believe, session here in the boardroom. Thank you for being with us. Stay safe.